Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this. What is today, the 6th day of Christmas my true love gave to me, right? No, 6th day of December here. Got a great show with you tonight. Returning guest, Ken Norris. Ken came a big Alabama fan. Came on the show a few weeks ago. Ken's very good guest guy I go to church with. Very funny, good sense of humor, and a lot of knowledge of Alabama football. Going to talk about that playoff, okay? Give you a couple different angles, give you my opinion, and we'll look at it from every angle possible. It's the most controversial, I think, playoff since this thing started back in 2014, 2015, the first year when Ohio State won, okay, in my opinion. So going to go over that. I may, depending on how the interview goes with Kent, I may talk about this somewhat of a human interest story. I want to say with Michael Penix here. It's just a lot of good stuff here to talk about. Anyways, Nick Saban gets the last laugh on David Pollock. Got a lot of sound to talk about. So let's go ahead and take our first and only break. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, so first of all, Alabama knocks off University of Georgia, snaps that 29th game winning streak, 27-24, the biggest game there. I think it set a record for conference championship ratings. This has been found out over time. Studying ratings for years, particularly when I've been doing this program. And we do like big favorites. The studies say I love to hate the Yankees, when they buy out the league, Pickles, and I really didn't like that Miami team back in 2000 and 2001, 2002 Miami Hurricane team that looked unbeatable. Really didn't care for that USC team. So we like big favorites. You either love the team or you love to see them get beat because they're not your team. So that particular Georgia team, I didn't think it was that good as last year's, and I didn't think it was definitely not as good as the year before that with Jalen Carter and all those guys. So, but anyways, a lot of us watched that game. It was a record-setting game. Alabama snaps that winning streak. By the way, Nick Saban's 5-1 against Kirby Smart. Yes, Carlos, Mad New Yorker Chavez, he predicts the score on Friday Sports Scope to the exact here. So let me play this for you all today because I'm not sure if Carlos is going to be in. Not sure if he's going to be in on Friday because he is out in Colombia. I guess he's got family down there in that country. Okay, here's Carlos on Friday Sports Scope. Listen up.
Like a recruit.
You're picking Alabama. What's the score?
I'm saying it's going to be 27-24.
Alabama?
Yeah.
Now that I put that in a TikTok video here. If you want to hear it again, listen up. This is a little bit of Alabama fight song in the background.
like a recruit.
You're
like,
picking Alabama. What's the score?
I'm saying it's gonna be 27-24.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Roll Tide, roll. That's pretty catchy, Pickles. I tell you, man. Oh, okay. So, Carlos, a big kudos to you, buddy, if you're watching. Correctly predicts the score. I told you on Monday, or I may have mentioned it yesterday. I had to have a show Monday. I was working on editing. That the reason why I picked Georgia, folks, is there was no proof. There was no proof that Alabama during the regular season, both teams, like for instance, they both played Auburn. Okay, both struggled against Auburn, but Georgia comes back, beats Auburn, much more comfortable than 4th and 31. Both play Tennessee. Alabama was down 2 touchdowns against Tennessee at halftime. Georgia goes on and beats Tennessee 38-10 after being down 7-0 early. So, I kind of mentioned that a little bit yesterday. But I also mentioned the fact that, Nick Saban was 4-1, now 5-1 against Kirby Smart. But as I stated during the week, last week, that even though they struggled against Auburn, I wasn't ready to write off Alabama. I wasn't ready to write off Alabama because back in 2017, 2018, they actually lost the Iron Bowl, did not play in the SEC championship, go on and beat a pretty good Clemson team in the semifinal, and then beat Georgia in the national championship when Jalen Hurts, the famous Jalen Hurts getting benched and Tua coming in, throwing the key touchdown, if you guys recall. Very bold move by Nick Saban, benching Jalen Hurts second half, and Tua being the more accurate quarterback, and going on and winning that particular game. Let's go back to last year, national championship game, okay? David Pollock, former Georgia Bulldog. Like David Pollock, used to beat up on my balls all the time as a Georgia Bulldog. Went on to become first-round draft pick, went to Cincinnati Bengals. Pollock got hurt. Done game day for a number of years. ESPN. Recently got laid off, but here is a clip of David Pollock last year at the national championship game in front of Nick Saban, Pickles, in front of Nick Saban, saying that Georgia, they was winning. They beaten TCU like 38-7 at halftime. It was a total rout. Saying that they're going to be the team of the future. This is, he's sitting there boasting about them, and Nick Saban's sitting there like, okay, we'll see about that. So listen up here. This soundbite, 13-second bite of last year at the championship game. David Pollock in front of Nick Saban boasting about Georgia.
Obviously, you've seen in the past couple seasons now, really, they've taken hold of college football. They did an unbelievable job. This is a young football team. This isn't an old football team with a bunch of guys loose. Now, listen, the NFL can take its chunk out of any team, but...
Yeah, and he's saying that with Nick Saban's like right in arm's length, Pickles, and Saban's looking at him like, okay, mother bleeper, okay, we're gonna see about that. And here we go. Now he's been laid off. He'll be fine. I'm sure he's probably working on some other things. But I'm sure Nick Saban probably now hasn't came out yet. But I know he remembers that. People like him don't ever forget anything, okay? But I wonder if he played that in the locker room for the players before the game. 29-game winning streak. I mentioned this earlier during the season that, I think that could catch up with Georgia. My preseason pick was Alabama to beat Georgia and Alabama to beat Michigan in the national championship. That won't happen, but they will play in the semifinal. Ironically, Michigan and Alabama will play in the semifinal. So Nick Saban gets the last laugh here. But you know what? There's another side to this thing, okay? Florida State, I'm staying up late Saturday night, and I'm saying, God, lose, man, lose. I do not want to see the third-string quarterback. We know about Benjamin Travis or whatever his name is. Jordan Travis, excuse me. We know about Jordan Travis, but then his backup, the backup was in some kind of concussion protocol. Had the third string. I was for sure Louisville would beat them. And, defense rolls up, and I thought, man, I sent Carlos a text. I thought, man, this thing is going to be unwatchable. They're going to put Florida State in there just as sure as I'm sitting here. And, Mike Greenberg from Get Up, once in a blue moon, Mike Greenberg will make a good point, and I'm giving you all points here. All points bulletin. He's saying we're leaving this thing up to judges like it's figure skating, Pickles, like we're in the Olympics, Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding up in here. So listen to Mike Greenberg on Get Up. I think this was on Monday. Okay. Stand by. See if I can find it. I've got so many bites here, folks. No. Which one is it? I guess.
Where do we do that, though, Dan? I'm just curious. I mean, so let me
Mike
present
Greenberg.
a possibility here, Heather. Let me throw this possibility out there. When the NFL season ends, let all the teams play all 17 of their games, and then I'm going to put together a committee. Former coaches: Rex Ryan, Mike Shanahan, Bill Parcells, Marv Levy, 98 years old. God bless him, still out there. You guys know football. You know a lot about football. So why don't you decide which 14 teams will wind up getting in? You decide which the 14 best are, because you know football way better. What does it matter what happens on the field? Just put them all in. The system stinks, is the point. The system is dead wrong. Florida State scheduled a powerhouse. They played them on a neutral field and beat them. They won every game in front of them. They won what we call a Power 5 league, and 13 people sitting in a... No, I don't have to stop saying anything. They won all of their games. Anyone can get hurt at any time. They won every game that was... They did literally everything that could be asked of a team, and 13 people making the subjective, not objective decision that they aren't as good anymore left them out of it. You know what happened yesterday? Football became figure skating. Figure skating is something that judges decide, because there is no objective way to decide if you were the better figure skater. But there is an objective way to judge football teams based on what they did. Florida State's strength of record was 3 at the end of the season.
Schedule is 55th.
Their strength.
Yeah, and the guy says his schedule was 55th. So it's a good point. That's a good point, and I like to play all the angles there. But again, you hear the fact. Hey, it's a TV show. Okay, it's some people say, and I want to give Colin Cowherd this credit here. He said that Ohio State, the critics will say Ohio State had a backup quarterback, third string guy back in 2014, 2015, the very first year that this thing came out. Yes, that's true. What happened in the game when they played Wisconsin that year in their conference championship game? They beat Wisconsin 59-0. They didn't struggle to the very end. So essentially, if they beat Louisville by a wide margin, then we're saying, okay, now because my thing is, we don't want to see a game that is going to be lopsided. Cincinnati, okay? Remember when Washington Pickles played a few years ago? Washington played Alabama 38-7. I mean, those are teams that don't deserve to be there. These need to be competitive games, okay? So, that's the flip side to it, okay? And mind you, hey, listen, Alabama, they played Auburn, okay? Auburn got beat by New Mexico State 31-10 on their schedule. So that weighs down Alabama's schedule, playing a little devil's advocate here. But Paul Fonbon made a good point here, and let me play one of college football's biggest personalities, Paul Fonbon, on this situation here, why he thinks that they simply did not get in here. If I can find it, I've got so many. No, that wasn't that one. Let me go back and find it here. I got so many here. Here it is. Here we go.
There's someone that has not been blamed for this. I've heard unfathomable. I've heard sad day in the sport. I've heard travesty. But Molly, give me a second here.
Okay.
You know whose fault it is that Florida State has been relegated to the Orange Bowl and Alabama's playing in the CFP? Put everybody on the screen for a second, because I want America to watch the reaction. The fault lies with Stephen A. Smith. And the reason for that, of all the commentary, of all the commentators, the person who made the most compelling point in America is Stephen A. And when he said right here last week, we don't want to see TCU back in the championship game losing 65-7, I believe very strongly those 13 members of the committee took notice.
Now that is true. That is true. That wasn't the bite I was looking for. Here's another bite. Paul Fonbon explains the week, the down Florida State schedule. Here's another Paul Fonbon.
The SEC probably cost Florida State a berth two different ways. They cost them a berth through Alabama beating Georgia. They also cost them a berth through Florida being so mediocre.
5-7 Florida.
Having another semi-off year. If LSU had beaten Ole Miss, they would have had a much higher standing. They probably would have been a top 10 team. If Florida had not just been a disaster this year, and they go in there and beat like Dan Mullen, a couple of his school teams, a 9 or 10 win team, this is a completely different conversation.
Yeah. So, in a sense, that kind of works against Alabama as well. What Paul said, they LSU's defense the last 2 years. I mean, I love Brian Kelly, but they can't stop a nosebleed, man. They are a shell of what their selves defensively. And Florida's got 7 losses and been blown out numerous times. That's why I get on the people here in Tennessee, your Tennessee fans, and say, listen, man, that's a bad loss that Tennessee had early against Florida. I'm surprised that Billy Napier's still the coach of Florida. Now, this time next year, Florida will be looking for another coach. So that's some of the argument, folks, against that is essentially some of the argument against FSU. Now, here is, and like I mentioned, there's some there is this Byron Donald here. A lot of the politicians, they love to get involved. That being said, just because it's coming from a politician's mouth does not make it not true. This congressman out of Florida, he's talking about, Florida State's going to lose all this money, $10 million. But he mentions the fact nobody's talking about people coming at Texas or Alabama because they've got the one loss here. The Alabama's got the one loss here, the double-digit early loss to Texas. They've got the early loss to Texas. He says, what about Texas? Okay, what about Texas' schedule? All right, what about who they play and their loss and the team that beat them and their losses? Guy actually makes a pretty good point here. Let me see if I can find it. Byron Donald, congressman out of Florida, really making some sense here, trying to be fair.
Where do we do that, though, Dan? I'm just curious. I mean,
no, wrong one. Where can I find this other bit at here? And I may have not recorded it right.
Where do we do that, though, Dan? I'm just curious.
No, that's the same one here. It's a bit of a longer cut. Okay, I'm going to find it if it kills me. I think it is. I might not have got it. Here we go. This is on the Clay, Travis, and Buck section show. Congressman from Florida, Byron Donald, making a case to take Texas out instead of Alabama over Florida and Florida State.
Texas. First of all, Texas, the same Texas team They beat Alabama in week 3 when Alabama was not the Alabama you saw beat Georgia. Much weaker team. Milroe got benched after the Texas game. This is the same Texas team that beat TCU by 3 points. They beat Kansas State by 3 points, looking god-awful. They lost to Oklahoma in the Red River shootout, and they beat an Oklahoma State team for the Big 12 championship that lost to South Alabama 33-7 and lost to UCF 45-3. UCF isn't even the 4th best team in Florida, and Oklahoma State beat them 45-3. That's who Texas beat for the Big 12 championship. So you're going to sit here and tell me that Texas could jump 4 spots on the last week over Florida State when Florida State went on to roll with the second-string quarterback and beat Florida in Florida? They didn't lose to UCF the way Oklahoma State did. They beat Florida in Florida. And let's talk about Louisville. Louisville is a better team than Oklahoma State. Much better team. They have a better offense than Oklahoma State, and our defense was lights out. They weren't good. They were great.
Well, that is true. That Oklahoma State could, man, they are terrible. But I feel his pain. Who said that? Bill Clinton. So listen, I got a book here, folks. The Nye of the Tiger. The last time this has happened, Al Borges, former offensive coordinator of the 2004 Auburn Tigers here. Remember, they went undefeated in the SEC. No conference over the past 20 years consistently puts out more NFL bodies than the Auburn Tigers back in 2004. Remember, it was Oklahoma and USC. We've talked about that one ad nauseum. And, of course, then we got the 14 playoff, which was like 10 years later, folks. But we did get it. We got the 14 playoff. And, of course, this time next year, this is all a moot point. But it's the most talked about in all of, excuse me, I had to put my stuff back over here. It's the most talked about controversial playoff ranking that I've ever seen. And, being a judge and juror here, all that being said, I even listened to Wilbon. I forgot the other guy's name. The guys that come on, pardoning the interruption, been on for ESPN for 100 years. Pickles, you know what I'm talking about. Those two guys. And both of them said that, listen, as much as I like Florida State over the years, as much as I feel bad for Jordan Travis, they would be double-digit underdogs, against Texas or Alabama with their quarterback situation here. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. I was actually listening to that song, Pickles, when I was listening to preparing for this program by the Rolling Stones here, which they've got a TikTok account, shows all their great shows, Pickles, of the Rolling Stones of the past. And it was Mick Jagger, and it looked like the 60s or 70s whenever that particular song came out. Feel bad, but hey, listen, man, it is a TV show. I do want to watch good football. And let me say this, and listen, not being hyperbolic, you can go through and look at every Final Four when this thing started back in 2014 and 2015, and be honest with yourself. You can look at one team and said, that team has no chance. Rather that team be, I remember when Florida State got destroyed that year by Oregon. We knew that Florida State was a fraud, even though they're undefeated. They had that particular team with Jameis Winston. Now, Winston won the national championship year before that, but that particular team, we knew they were a fraud. They didn't have a shot. And I'll tell you what, think about the years when they had Cincinnati, Washington, Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame. Looking back on it, Oklahoma, Georgia runs through them like roughshod. So occasionally you might get an upset, but this one right here, I really do. If I've watched a couple of Washington games, they beat Oregon at a neutral site, beat Oregon State. Oregon State they were underdogs to Oregon State. Remember, Oregon State had the Clemson transfer there at Oregon State. Big win there. 2 wins over Oregon. At USC, USC's very good at home. Though they had terrible defense, beat them double digits on the road. I think Michael Penix is going to be – I got a story I want to talk about him. I might get to it today. I might get to it tomorrow. Depends on how long that Ken Norris stays on here, how our conversation goes. But either way, you got a lot of NFL players. I really like beyond the story. I think Washington can win the whole thing if they play their cards right, okay? Same thing with Tech. Now, Texas just came together lately. They've been blowing teams out, man. Remember they lost last year to Texas Tech? Not this time. Blew Texas Tech out of the water. I think that was a Friday after Thanksgiving. Things have really picked up for them. And mind you, that was a 4-point loss. Byron Donald didn't mention the fact that they did beat Alabama by 10 at Alabama. And the loss to Oklahoma was a neutral site loss there. That was a neutral field. That lost to Oklahoma, but they do have some holes in their defense. It's better. I think a Washington could beat them. You know, I think an Alabama in a rematch could beat them. Okay, but in Michigan, listen, Michigan, they lost one of their guards in the Ohio State game, if you don't recall. Now, of course, they shut out Iowa 26-0 in the championship game there. I'm not sure if Michigan can do it this year. Michigan will be playing Alabama on New Year's Day. I think I would still take Alabama. I'm sticking with my preseason stuff because I know Alabama's depth. I know there's going to be some unsung heroes. That confidence from the Georgia game. The run defense really got stout there in that Georgia game. So I do think that it could go either way. Obviously, I think Michigan's actually favored in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Texas is favored against Washington. But all 4 of these teams can win. I mean, you can see it. All 4 of these teams can win. I've never, ever seen a situation like this. And let me say another thing, okay? So you've got undefeated Michigan. You got undefeated Washington, 1 loss Alabama, 1 loss Texas. I'll go out on the limb and say these playoffs on New Year's Day, starting, I want to say, at 4 o'clock Central Time on New Year's Day, and then the other one will be at 7. I think they will be the highest rated playoff games in the history of this thing. Now, it's only been 8 years, but anyways, who's keeping up, right? In the history of these playoffs, including Georgia and Ohio State, which set a record. Georgia and Ohio State last year. Look at all the pros that were in that game. Marvin Harrison's going to be a pro. Jalen Carter drafted, Stetson Bennett drafted, okay? Mingo drafted. The tight end went to we could go on and on about those Georgia players. Their left tackles with Pittsburgh. Their tight ends with Pittsburgh. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Both of those guys are Philadelphia Eagles. So not to mention the left tackle from Ohio State. Okay, he is currently with the Arizona Cardinals, doing pretty good, playing pretty well there at that position there. So it's going to be a great playoff. I'm so glad Florida State with the backup quarterback's not going to be in there. And you just don't want to see these things be blowout. We watch enough of that to start the season, folks. Nothing against Marshall. I went to Austin Peay, okay? It's Ohio Valley Conference. They played Tennessee this year. I don't want to see too many of those guys. I don't want to see any of those games, be honest with you. If I didn't ever have to say, it's charity and they get blah, blah, blah. They get money for their schools and everything. But you can't watch, not unless you're a gambler and you're saying, okay, can they cover the 59-0? Can they cover the 46 points? That's the only reason people that's outside the families watch these particular games. You know, the players just use those games to pay, but you don't want to see that in a playoff. You know, and I think we're going to have good, compelling games here. Very good football from all angles. Pickle says, Jagger and Richardson. Michael Penix. I like Penix here. A lot of big wins there. A lot of big key throws. Now, listen, I know Jalen Daniels for LSU is his stats are unbelievable. I think he's got like 10 more touchdowns than anybody else. But look where they finished at. You know, is this going to be somebody was mentioning this? I think somebody with Fox Sports were saying, is this going to be like the Robert Griffin the third year, where nobody had a really great year that was on a dominant team that year? When was it? 2012, I think. And Griffin, you know, he ends up winning it from Baylor. I don't hope that's not the case. Love to see a guy like Michael Penix win it over a Marvin Harrison, since they didn't even get into the playoffs. So my guest is right on time here, 7:30 on the money. Let me get my notes here. Ken Norris here. No relation to Chuck Norris here, but we shall see. Hey, Ken, good to see you again, man.
Hey, Robert.
Okay, I was just talking about this playoff from all different angles, but let's start back at the most viewed game, Georgia and Alabama. What's your thoughts on this game? Alabama was considerably almost a touchdown underdog in this game. What's your thoughts, Alabama-Georgia last Saturday, Ken?
Well, in today's time, you can't go off of media statistics. No. It was a coaching game.
Yeah.
Alabama went into that game underdog, but I had Georgia a 10-point deficit a week before they even went into the game, because the fact Georgia playing Georgia Tech proved to me that they were struggling in many areas.
Okay.
Now, Alabama's at the first of the year was struggling.
Yeah.
But Coach Saban uses the word for his players that nobody knows about.
What's that?
It's called being attentive.
Okay.
And he teaches them the definition. He don't let them read it and see what the definition is. He teaches them the definition of being attentive. He lets them boys go out and play their game, because when they're drafted into college, they got these high-ranking statistics, and they walk in there like, "Hey, I'm the man." And they find out when they get on that college field, they're lacking in many areas.
Right.
And Coach Saban let them go out there at the first of the year and play their game. And they found out that's what they were doing. They was about a bunch of game.
Hey, let me ask you, do you think this is his best coaching job? I actually do.
Yes, I mean, it has to be, because the fact the guys came in just like Milroe. He came in from what is that, Tompkins High School out of Texas.
Okay.
That's worse than the Brickyard in Nashville, Tennessee.
You know what? I didn't even. I knew he's from Texas. I didn't know that you said it's a rough.
Katy, Texas. I mean, that's not even heard of.
Right.
But now he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
But he needed the definition of being attentive to somebody that can teach him how to be a winner.
Right.
And he finally got to believing in Coach Saban, just like Burton and Brooks. All them boys stepped back and started listening.
Right.
Now Alabama's going out. They're going. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're in the Final Four.
Yeah, they're going to be playing Michigan on New Year's Day, 4 weeks from this past Monday. So it's I want to say they're underdogs to Michigan. You know what? I haven't seen one player improve as a quarterback under Nick Saban throughout one season as much as Monroe has. Big jumps. Remember they were bad against, was it UCF or something? The next week after they lost to Texas A&M, they put another quarterback in there, and see the transformation in Milroe. I don't think I've ever seen a player make the jump like he did in one season.
That's what being attentive will do.
Yeah.
Listening to someone giving you direction and putting in action the direction you was given. And not only he's walking around with his head up, not his nose up in there, but his head up now, knowing that he's been taught by one of the best. And I'm just saying, because Nick Saban's statistics reads he's one of the best that's ever been.
Yeah.
And those guys believe in him. And he teaches them the ethics and standards that they need to be the perfect athlete.
Right.
I can hear Saban telling Jalen Milroe, you know, Jalen, it's all about Jalen Hurts right now. But he said, when I finish with you, it's going to be about Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
If you'll listen and be attentive to me, Jalen Hurts will be in the past, and you'll be the future.
Hey, let me ask you this. Go back a week before that. You were telling me something in Churchill that I thought was funny. Did you give up on the Auburn game? And you said something like you had to go to Lowe's because you got tired of watching it. Tell me that story. Let's go back to the Auburn game.
Well, that's Iron Bowl, buddy.
Yeah.
And,
it's nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Well, it's not. It's a good game, but now it's the thing about it is Auburn, they played better than they played in 10 years that Saturday. And they were after Alabama. And they do not have the team to play anybody else like they played Alabama that day.
Yeah.
And they played a better game. But that's football. You seen what Milroe come back and done at the final seconds.
Yeah.
And he's capable, and that built his confidence in himself to know don't never give up until that clock strikes 0.
Yeah.
And
it had to be his best coaching job. And, Auburn, man, they got beat 31-10 by New Mexico State the week before at home.
Yeah. At home. At home. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say about all the critics who bring all this stuff up and saying that Florida State should be in, not Alabama, not Texas?
Well, if you use that word critics loosely, if the definition was in front of you about critics, then you would say something about somebody else saying something about a football team, because that's what they are. They're critics.
Yeah.
They criticize their children. They criticize
well, what about the Florida State football fans? Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what they're good at. It's criticizing, and that's what they become as critics. If you know football like I do, you don't never give up until that clock is 0. And then when you got a coach that's a good coach, that's like Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee's got a good coach if they'll leave him alone and let him do his job. And it's going to turn out to be that, because he's brought them a long way. Now, to get back on Alabama and Georgia and Alabama and Michigan, Michigan is trembling right now. Yeah. They are like, oh my gosh, they don't know what to do, because they didn't think Alabama was going to be in it.
Right.
And now the number 1 coach is coming up there. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know, guys, you're gonna have to step it up. You're gonna have to play like Auburn did in the Iron Bowl. You know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because
You know,
Alabama plays their game.
right.
That's what they play. They play a coach's game. They listen to the coach. They do what the coach teaches them to have confidence in what he teaches them.
Right.
They have gone through this whole year of 2023 doing what Nick Saban has taught them to do, and they found out that it works. That's why they are. You see them. You see Jalen Milroe when he gets up to the huddle and he's back. Before he snaps that ball, what does he do? He looks right over at Nick Saban.
Yeah, he does, man.
He'll look right over there to him, and Nick will just nod his head. That's giving him the confidence to go ahead with it. Do what you do.
Yeah. Let me play you this. I want to get your reaction. This is from, what's his name? Daniel. Let me make sure I got my notes right here. This is Pollock here. Daniel Pollock, I want to say his name is, from University of Georgia. David Pollock. Remember him?
Yeah.
Worked in ESPN. University of Georgia. This is him at the national championship game last year when TCU's getting destroyed by Georgia. And Nick Saban is standing right beside him. Listen up.
Obviously, you've seen in the past couple seasons now, really, they've taken hold of college football. They've done an unbelievable job. This is a young football team. This isn't an old football team with a bunch of guys loose. Now, listen, the NFL can take its chunk out of any team, but
okay, so that was David Pollock right at Nick Saban. Nick Saban's nodding his head like, okay. What are your thoughts on that comment? What do you think Nick Saban? Y'all pretty close to the same age. What do you think he's thinking right there?
It's just like today's time in this generation. If you've got a man that's been working in an industry for over 40 years,
yeah,
and he's standing back like Nick Saban was then, and you got him he's in the field now, and he's letting Nick Saban know about what's going to happen. Now, Nick Saban has been in it for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
He should be asking him, Mr. Saban, will this work? But the people of today in today's generation, they lean on their own understanding, and guess what?
What?
They start wiping mud off their butts because they hit
That's what I thought too. I was thinking Nick Saban's like, okay. I wondered, Ken, do you think that Nick Saban played that in the locker room last week leading up to the Georgia game? 29-game winning streak.
No, Nick Saban don't have to do things like that.
You never know. They would keep it in-house. We wouldn't know if he did.
No, it's not. Nick Saban don't live in Vegas, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. He don't live that life. Nick Saban
does tell you what's on his mind. That is true.
And really, Nick Saban won't even tell you that. He'll answer a question, but he don't take it all out about this critic said that, this critic said this, or it should be ran this way. He don't even say, if you really want to know how it to be ran, just watch me. He don't even say that.
Right.
But that
actions speak louder than words.
That action speaks louder than words.
Yeah.
And my prediction this year, Robert, is Alabama's the national champions this year.
Well, they were my preseason favorites because their recruiting has been there for Alabama. They've out-recruited everybody 2 of the last 3 years. The only team that out-recruited them was Texas A&M. That was in not this past year, year before that. Jimbo Fisher's already been fired. So they've out-recruited. Now, Georgia out-recruited them 5-6 years ago. Those players have already moved on to the NFL. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. So I thought coming in, Alabama had a shot. But, Georgia outplayed them. Alabama had to come back in the second half. like I was telling you before, I just, man, it's like, man, I don't know. I know on paper, but the game's not played on paper. 10 double-digit loss at home. Very close win against Texas A&M, Auburn. Tennessee had them down twice. At halftime, they come back. They had to come back. I'm not used to seeing Alabama win like that. It seems like the talent gap between Alabama and everybody else is closed. But we forget, like you said, Nick Saban's still a good X's and O's game manager. He still can coach. He's just not all recruit.
You know, I watched him when Milroe threw that pass with Auburn.
Yeah.
Just seconds left on the clock.
Was you at Lowe's when you saw that?
And when he did,
yeah.
No, I actually seen it on a rerun.
Well, at least you're honest about it.
Well, I seen it on a rerun because I did go to Lowe's, and of course I had my phone out. I was watching it. And,
you maybe, if you're like me, you think maybe that'll change your luck a little bit?
When I'm gonna tell you, I cut my phone off when they were beat.
Okay.
And so I was finishing my shopping at Lowe's, thinking that Alabama had lost. Well, when I checked out and paid for my merchandise, I hit my phone, and it was the final 27-24.
Woo!
And right in the middle of Tennessee, Nashville, I said, "Roll Tide." But anyway, when I got home, I brought up the replay and seen it, and I said, and I seen Saban do this.
Yeah.
And when he did, I mean, he wasn't thrilled. He just looked up and did this right here at the goal post, and looked at Jalen Milroe and said, "Didn't I tell you?"
That what you're doing there, that position or whatever, that stance, that gesture. I have a card of Joe Montana doing that, and I want to say it was after he threw that touchdown. I got rid of all my cards, but I sold them. I think that was when he hit Dwight Clark there to win the 1981 NFC Championship game. But then again, it may have been a few years later when he won the Super Bowl in '89. But that's a flashback right there. That's very iconic. The hands up, the ref touchdown. When I watch football, when I'm watching a kick, I don't even look at the ball. I'm looking for the refs because it's hard to really say. I mean, it's hard for you to see if it's close, man. I'm looking at this.
That's just like my men at work.
Yeah.
When they want to know if I approve of what they've done, I don't tell them in voice. I just do this right
here. Do you think if they do win a national championship, or Texas, both have one loss, will this be looked at as a championship with an asterisk, Ken? Because of Florida State going undefeated in a Power 5?
Well, it's hard. It's hard in today's time with the playoffs and how they have to choose and pick. They couldn't go against the statistics of Nick Saban.
Right.
Nick holds so much clout in the college football conferences, and that's not only in the SEC. That's in the Big Ten, the Pac-12, all that. They know Nick Saban is the man you want to beat. If you can go in there and beat him continuously, you can. I mean, not just go in there and beat him one time and just be a myth, but go in there and beat him every year for several years. It's not been done.
Yeah.
It's not going to be done. They might somebody come in there and beat him one game, go back the next 5 years and get beat. But
I think it'll be discussed.
To beat him continuously every year for 5 years, 60 months.
Woo.
That's unheard of. It had never been done.
I can't remember anybody really getting the best of him 2 and 3 times. I know that people brag about when they do beat him,
Well, of
Hugh
course,
Freeze,
of course.
you know.
That's why we say you earned the bragging rights this year. You know, and I thought, see, my sister's got 2 graduates out of Auburn University.
Okay.
So I just turned the game off, went on to Lowe's because I knew what I was in for.
Man.
You know? And because she would have called my phone and said, "You got a second?"
She didn't call. She waited till it went 000, didn't she?
Yeah, she didn't know. It was 4 or 5 days later before she answered my call. And then she didn't want to talk then. We don't talk about Alabama and Auburn when we talk. She'll hang the phone up. And
how did it go about getting the kick six? I don't know if I asked you about that last time or not. When you thought it was going to be going to overtime or something like that, and then the guy catches it for Auburn, runs the ball back, and they win the Iron Bowl back in 2013, 10 years ago. Do you remember that? Was there a conversation then?
No, they wasn't. No, because I didn't answer the phone then.
So yeah. Hey, that's how I am, man.
I didn't want to talk to her because I knew why she was calling.
I used to take baseball seriously.
Of course, I'm not rude to my sister. I texted her back and said, "I'm busy. Sure. I'll talk to you later."
At least you're honest about it. Hey, man, it sucks. I tell you.
I think this year that Alabama's going to pull it on out, and for some reason, it's weighing on my heart.
Yeah.
That Nick Saban, these conference coaches, has said something, and it's been by several of them that don't talk to each other, has said the same thing, degrading Saban and his coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Saban this year, and I don't know why I feel this way, but it's an inner spirit thing that's been moving on me that Nick Saban's proven a point by his coaching this year.
Yeah.
And I believe that anybody that goes up against him right now with what he's taught these boys he has right now,
yeah,
and how they believe in him, I don't believe they can be beaten.
Yeah. Who will they play in the national championship then? Let me tell you the teams, in case you don't remember.
Yeah, who is that?
Okay, Alabama will play Michigan first, and then Texas will play Washington. Washington's really good, man. I really like that quarterback there. Very physical team, Washington.
I watched some of the game last Saturday.
Friday. They beat Oregon twice. And Texas, they've been blowing people out, but they have shown some vulnerability. They did lose to Oklahoma. And I do think if Alabama were to play Texas again, I think Alabama would beat them. I think Alabama will probably beat Washington in the national championship game. That's my prediction.
So it's going to be Washington and Texas and Alabama and Michigan.
Alabama, Michigan.
I believe that it will. I believe that Washington would take Michigan. I believe Washington would take Texas. I believe Alabama would take Michigan and take Texas. So it would. I do believe that those two, that physical team of Washington, and that young team of Alabama, I believe that will be the two playing. That's my belief.
Me too.
I don't see Alabama beating Washington, but I'm going to tell you something. I see Nick Saban beating them. He's that good of a coach. He'll put it together where Washington won't stand a chance. And the guys will be attentive to what he asks them to do. They are able to put their thoughts aside, get rid of them out of their head, and let him instill inside of them what he wants them to do. And they will focus directly on that because they know one thing. If Coach Saban says it, it'll work.
Man.
They believe in him that much.
You know, he did a this guy I follow on Facebook, this coach, I can't remember his name, but he puts out clips of coaches, and he had one of Nick Saban's talking to his players, and he says other NFL coaches, they don't ask me about what type of player this is and all that. They ask me about the player's character, because we've got enough film out there. They kind of know what kind of player you are, but they want to know, are you reliable when times are hard? They want to know if you're on time for class, on time for study habits. How do you act when things go? I mean, he's going through all this stuff. It's very good. You know, he's got some really good speeches, man. You know, very motivational guy. Pickle says Lane Kiffin brags about getting close with Alabama.
You know who I would like to be right now?
What's that?
Who's that's on the commercial with Nick Saban about the athlete?
Deion.
What's his name?
Deion Sanders, athlete.
You know what? I would love to be in his shoes right now, because I'm going to tell you something. Nick Saban's teaching him and talking to him about football.
Yeah.
Where Deion Sanders is attentive to what Coach Saban is teaching him.
Yeah.
And as long as you see Deion Sanders in that commercial, the better Deion's going to get at coaching Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
Before
got some
long,
learning to do, but he's getting better. He's getting better.
well, you know why he's getting better. He's being taught by the best.
Yep.
And and he's being attentive to it, because he knows that if Coach Saban will teach him the way to do the X's and O's,
yeah,
then he'll be just like Nick Saban. Then he's gonna be like the fallen angel. He's gonna try to be Nick Saban. And Nick said, I taught you everything you know, but I didn't teach you everything I know.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. You know, I've had Jim Jeffcoat on this show. Guy used to play with Deion, former Dallas Cowboy, and he says, you know, he was there before he was. As far as studying film, working out, getting his lifts in, he was very serious about his work ethic. You know, Deion was. So Deion team kind of fell off this year. They didn't have a lot of depth. I think he's going to make a lot of adjustments, man. We'll see how that thing plays out. I'm not sure.
Wasn't this year his first year at Colorado?
Yeah.
Well,
he had a lot of transfers.
He's been there 5 years.
Right.
And still doing the Aflac commercial.
Yeah. Pickles thinks that he might retire after this year.
You know, I told you the reason they got that goat in that commercial, right?
Because he's the greatest of all time.
Because Nick Saban's the greatest of all times. That's what that GOAT stands for.
Yeah, GOAT. Do you think Saban will retire if they win the championship this year?
Well, you know how it goes with college coaches. They don't want to give it up.
That's true.
And he won't give it up until he starts slipping in areas. And he's got a very honorable wife. And if she ever tells him that he needs to quit, he'll quit. But she would never tell him that unless something was slipping with him.
Yeah.
And right now, he's sharp as a tack.
I think so. He's in his 70s. Yeah, I think he may. This NIL stuff's kind of annoying, but he seems to have adjusted because the recruiting they're still number one in recruiting. They recruited number one this past year.
It's a challenge, Robert.
Yeah.
When you get his age and my age, it's a challenge when you got something come upon you that you used to be able to do very simple.
Yeah.
But with a different generation to try to do the same thing, it's challenging to be able to conquer that, to persevere over it.
Yeah.
And make it happen like it did before.
That keeps his mind sharp, don't it?
It keeps your mind sharp. It really does. And you learn how to be humble and let things take their course and don't stress out about it.
Yeah.
Because everything will surface if you let it surface on its own. And
I think he
I'm
can coach
not a
those
college
80s.
football coach.
Yeah.
But I've been around them for a long, long time, and I've seen some good coaches do some good things.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. You gonna be at church Sunday?
Well, you know I am. I get my ordination is Sunday.
Yeah, I'll bring Mr. Kentucky with me there.
Yeah, I get to move up a notch in the church Sunday.
Oh, you're gonna be doing deacon training?
I get ordained Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So I become full throttle.
Well, I guess we'll start calling you sir then.
Hey, don't bring that up. I have no problem with it because I have earned it.
Sir, yes, sir.
You do that, I'm gonna smush your donuts you bring on Sunday.
Oh man, yeah, I kind of fatten everybody up with them. But
yeah,
one time I brought fruit, and one lady was like, "Oh, you want to bring fruit?" I said, "Okay, yeah, never mind. I'll go back to the donuts then."
Everybody loves them donuts, Robert. Yeah, they do. Well, buddy,
Yeah,
I'll see you Sunday. And like you said, my name is Kenneth Norris, but you forgot my middle name.
What is it?
Roll Tide Row.
You know, I sent you that thing earlier this week, and I was telling, I played it for the audience here. A friend of mine that comes on the program on Fridays came on. He predicted the score. Carlos did. And I did this thing on TikTok where they're playing the Alabama fight song, and it goes dun 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 dun. Roll Tide Roll. Dun, 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 dun. I thought, man, that has been stuck in my head since I edited the show out and put that in there since Monday. And I'm not an Alabama fan, but I do love college football, man.
I'm not going to sing it to you. This version of our audition right here.
Yeah.
But I rewrote Rocky Top.
Did you? Oh, God, here we go.
I'm not going to do it.
Okay, good.
You'll have to bring me back on for me to give it to you.
Oh, okay.
But you would right. But I'll tell you what, Michigan, that's who Alabama's playing, right?
Yeah.
January well, I want to tell you, listen to this.
Okay.
This is what Michigan is going to be saying when when
who's got it better than us? Nobody.
This is what Michigan's going to be saying after the game.
Okay.
Be some kind of cation. I don't know if it's a vacation or a staycation or some medication, but I need me some cation. Just saying.
Early vacation. Going fishing.
No, what he just said, if you couldn't hear it, that was Ernie on Big Bird.
Yeah.
Street. He said, I need me some cation. He said, I don't know if it's a vacation or staycation or medication.
Yeah.
I just need me some cation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I thought he was saying because they're going to the early vacation because they're getting beat.
I thought that was funny.
Pretty funny, man. Yeah. Ken Norris, everybody. Have a good one, buddy.
Roll Tide Row, y'all.
See you Sunday. All right, everybody. I will be back here tomorrow. Going to talk about that Michael Penix story and background here. Ken's great. A lot of fun here. Talk about points against the spread. Interesting Bill Belichick. Something I heard about him. I'll tease that for tomorrow. I'll tell you what, if this is true, Belichick, it's the ultimatum's got to be read to him. I'll tease it that way. I'll play a soundbite for Bill Belichick. So keep that in mind. I hope it ain't what I think it is, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you same place, same time here tomorrow on SportsScope. And please share the program. If you like this, share it. We got to get this thing bigger. Thanks, everybody.